Why do ADHD people not reply to you sometimes? Yeah, sometimes we might not hear you. Or, well, think of an answer, and think of it so hard that we thought we already answered. I sometimes register something as a passing thought instead, but that may just be me. Outside of Earl, sometimes you think you press send and just forget to actually send, or skip a thought and miss a point during texting. 1. We forgot. 2. We didn't forget, but you are asking something that means I have to do something that I know I'm not gonna do, hence anxiety and avoidance. 3. We forgot then remembered, but it's too late to be within social normal, so now it gets lumped into anxiety. 4. You think it requires a reply, but it doesn't. 5. It is the only thing I have been thinking about for 9 days, but I can't come up with a response that A, you like, and B, I like as well. Until I found out I had ADHD at age 32. I thought this was how everyone experienced the world. Yes, if I am very focused on something, my brain literally discards you speaking to me. Can be a few different things. If the environment is busy, meaning there's a lot of input, visually, auditorial, sensory, then it can be easy to miss someone speaking because of distractions. If they were already doing something, it's possible they are hyper-focused, lost sense of everything but the thing in front of them. If you are a pain to deal with, they might be ignoring you intentionally, but this is the least likely. Are they so focused that their brain doesn't even register the question? Literally this. You could say we are strong momotaskers. Until something else grabs our attention. Then we may even have huge difficulties remembering what we just were talking about before some distracting door was banged. Both happen to me all the time. Are they so focused that their brain doesn't even register the question? That can be the reason, and is probably the most common reason. It can also be that we heard you say something, but before we could formulate a reply, our train of thought got derailed by something we saw, heard, felt, smelled, etc. It's pretty frustrating, because you haven't snapped their attention. This is actually something that is one of the very few things me and my wife slightly argue about. She'll walk up to me and just start talking, not get my attention. Nothing, just start talking. At some weird point where nothing makes sense, I'll make some comment. You know, you didn't get my attention again. I have no idea what you've been talking about. They don't hear you. My whole family got ADHD, and having important, but to them uninteresting, conversation is like herding cats. Get attention of one person, you lose the rest. Clapping and snapping fingers can extremely rude to do, but if you have good relationship with this person and they understand that sometimes their attention is needed, it's usually quite effective way. Don't do it people that are not really close and without talking about it before you start doing it. Hyper-focus if you're in the middle of a task is essential, because if you get distracted, it can derail the entire task you in the middle of completing. They may well do the sort of minor nod, carry on and wrap up whatever it is, then spin round and say sorry, and ask what they can help you with. It can also be an issue with text messaging too, not wanting to reply with the most brief okay or similar, and wanting to be able to expand and elaborate in reply. So set it to one side thinking I'll reply in full to that in a bit. But then because of the way our brains are composed, it can slip out of mind and suddenly be days or even weeks later they reply. Think of it this way, imagine the sensation of getting really engrossed in something, but then having to take a break of a couple of weeks and then return to it. For those of us with ADHD, those few seconds where we're asked for help and distracted can be the equivalent of a 2-week break, thoughts jumbled up, train of thought gone, and needing to remember what part of the work or task you've already completed. Think of an ADHD person as a computer with very low RAM. If RAM usage is already high using phone, focusing on something, then any extra information sent is simply not processed. They may hear the words you say, but they won't register the meaning, because the computer is currently busy with something else. My so does this, she'll sometimes not respond, I'll ask her again, and she'll say she has responded. She replies in her head, and doesn't realize that she hasn't verbalized. Because we're obviously busy and you're interrupting. Lol. $1 million idea. Get the person's attention before asking them a thing. Many of the comments already posted are good and accurate. IMO. Something else I'd like to add: if this happens in group situations, sometimes it can be a processing issue. Like by the time a response is ready, the conversation has already moved on. In these cases, the person may choose to not respond to allow the conversation to keep its natural flow. The request goes into queue behind whatever is taking our attention at the moment, and sometimes it vanishes from short-term memory before we get to it. It's not malicious. Hyperfocus and/or inattention are at play there. They are not being rude actually. Yep, so focused that your voice is either not heard or on delay. Sometimes I hear a question, but I need to finish what I'm thinking before I can process what I've just heard. Yes, They are hyper-focused on whatever they are doing and are only vaguely aware that you are talking to them. Either we are too focused or our focus isn't good enough, but we want to get the task done before answering. I know that could happen with me. I am also on the mild end of the autism spectrum and can be very forgetful, forgetting what I just talked about or going into a blank state where I suddenly just forget the entire conversation, sometime only remembering the topic, but nothing else. Head empty. I tend to not use my phone for anything important while talking to others, so I can't speak for others. That is ADHD in a nutshell. You think you're just asking a simple question, but for us you're trying to break our attention from the task at hand, and that doesn't work for us.